You're ambitious, aren't you? You've got these big dreams, a desire to be successful, and ultimately, you envision living the life you've always wanted. But there's a snag. You're struggling with laziness. You know exactly what you should be doing, yet you just don't do it. This often leads to a nagging sense of guilt because, deep down, you're aware you're capable of so much more. This guilt can really pile up over days, weeks, even months until it sometimes turns into a quiet acceptance. Then, the new year rolls around, bringing with it the very same goals from last year. You kick things off strong, fueled by a burst of motivation and perhaps a touch of optimism.
However, before you know it, procrastination subtly creeps in, much like that relative who always shows up uninvited. This lingering procrastination eventually transforms into a daily cycle of inactivity. And soon enough, you might even start labeling yourself as a lazy person. So, how do we actually break this cycle and free ourselves from the grip of procrastination? Well, the internet is flooded with videos on this, but most of them only tackle the symptoms, things like deleting social media or removing distractions. While these can offer a quick fix, they often miss the real issue, the root cause behind procrastination. And that can be summed up in one powerful word: inertia. In physics, inertia describes the tendency for objects at rest to stay at rest, and objects in motion to stay in motion, unless an outside force acts upon them. This is in fact Newton's first law of motion, and it applies just as much to our tasks as it does to physical objects. Simply getting started on any task, no matter how small, requires an initial push, a certain amount of energy to overcome that resting state of inertia. And here's the tricky part. We often make this initial push seem so monumental, so difficult in our minds, that we end up avoiding the task entirely, distracting ourselves instead with easy, dopamine-inducing activities. So, to genuinely break procrastination, we need to break inertia, and there are two effective ways to do this. The toughest part is usually getting started, right? So, make that initial step as incredibly easy as possible. You can do this by reducing the stakes and taking the absolute smallest step forward. For instance, if you tell yourself, I need to sit down and complete my 5,000-word essay, the inertia feels overwhelming because the stakes are so high. But what if you simply tell yourself, I'm only going to write 50 words? Suddenly, the feeling of inertia is much lower. It's pretty easy to get started without needing to rely on sheer willpower or strict discipline. Another super popular and effective technique is the 2-minute rule. If you're really not feeling up to doing the work, just tell yourself you'll do it for 2 minutes, and then you can stop if you want to. For example, if you don't feel like cleaning your room, just put on a song, clean your room while it plays, and stop when the music stops. The best part is, more often than not, you'll actually continue longer than 2 minutes, or you'll end up writing more than just 50 words. This happens because objects in motion stay in motion. Once we get going, we start to build momentum, and that momentum keeps us moving forward for longer. Initially, it's like pushing a ball uphill, but once we get past that point of inertia, it's downhill from there. That's precisely why it's so important that the initial push is small and easy. In other words, reduce the stakes and just start with 2 minutes. You can truly apply these two simple methods to any area of your life to overcome procrastination, whether it's hitting the gym, working on your side hustle, nurturing your relationships, or pretty much anything else you can imagine. As Martin Luther King Jr. wisely said, you don't have to see the whole staircase, just take the first step.